Welcome to my channel. Before we start, I want you to think about what it would be like to wake up one morning and realize you've missed something important in your life. Maybe it's the simple feeling of contentment that you lack right now, or perhaps it's words left unsaid to your loved ones, but we have the opportunity to change that. Now feel the possibilities, sense how the energy of change already surrounds you. But before we begin, if you love your grandchildren, children, and those dear to you, be sure to subscribe to our channel to bring luck and well-being into their lives. It's simple, but so important. Now let's begin our story, which could change your life. Have you ever wondered what it means to live a worthy life in your later years? Why do so many people upon reaching 60 or even 70 years old suddenly feel unnecessary and lost? This feel is familiar to many of us, but today you'll learn a way to overcome it. First, let me share the story of one man from a small village far from the hustle and bustle of cities. He was 75 years old and thought that the most important parts of his life were behind him. But one encounter changed everything. Don't miss what's next, because the most important part is at the end of this video. This man, whose name was Ivan, had felt empty for a long time. Every morning he would wake up, look out the window, and wonder what's next. Why am I living? His children had long grown up. His grandchildren visited him rarely, and although his health allowed him to tend his garden, it didn't give him the same energy it once did. One day, while walking in the forest, Ivan met a woman named Maria, who was in her 60s. She looked remarkably calm and confident, as if she knew something he didn't. "Why are you so calm?" couldn't help but ask. Maria smiled. "I've learned to live in harmony with myself and the world around me," she said. "I can share a secret with you that helps me find joy every day." Ivan was intrigued and ready to hear her advice. "What's the secret?" he asked. "It's a ritual I perform every evening before bed. It sees my mind of heavy thoughts, helps me feel connected to life, and fills me with energy." Maria told Ivan that all she needed for the ritual was a can of clean water and a few minutes of silence. She showed Ivan how she would light the candle, pour water into a glass, and sit in front of them. "I look at the flame, and in my mind say all the bad leaves and the good remains," she said. "Then I take the water and say, let this water fill me with strength and health." Ivan listened carefully and said, "Yes, that's the power of it. And we can focus on what's important when things are kept simple. The most important part is still to come, so don't turn off the story. It might change the way you see things." Ivan chose to do the right that very night. He lit the candle, put water in a glass, and sat down in front of them. The candlelight was the only sound in the room as he repeated Maria's words, "All the bad leaves and the good remains." He then looked at the water and said, "Let this water fill me with strength and health." After 3 small sips, he felt something strange. "This feels strange, but I really do feel a sense of relief." The next morning, he felt a strange lightness and got up earlier than usual to go for a walk. He wanted to go back to the forest where he had met Maria. While walking through the trees, he started to notice things about beauty that he had previously overlooked, like how the sunlight filtered through the leaves and how the wind whispered its stories. When he saw Maria again, he told her, "Your ritual really works. Is there something else that helps you keep up such a strong will?" "Good mood," Maria agreed. "This is only the beginning. To really be strong, we need to remember that the way we treat ourselves and others gives us energy back." She gave Ivan another task. Every night before bed, he was to think of 3 things he was thankful for that day. She said that being grateful is the key to peace, and that even on the worst days, there is always at least one small thing to be thankful for. At first, Ivan had a hard time finding anything he was truly grateful for, but after a week, he noticed that his mood was starting to change. He started to find joy in small things like watching his neighbors smile. Nice weather, the smell of freshly baked bread, but that's not all that changed in Ivan's life. We'll tell you what else did and how it can help you all. Ivan noticed that his days started to feel more meaningful. He started paying more attention to himself and his health. He thought, if I want to live long and happily, I need to take care of my body and soul. He started walking around the village and helping his neighbors with their chores. I felt that these small actions were reviving him, but the biggest change was in his attitude towards life. He now saw every day as a chance. One day, Maria went up to him again, and Ian said, "You look better now than when we first met, but remember that things change over time," she told him. Enough. One more important step. She told me to look at myself in the mirror every morning when I wake up and say, I am valuable, I am worthy, I am capable. This would help me feel better about my own self-worth. At first, Ivan felt awkward saying these words out loud, especially in front of a mirror. He thought it was silly, but he gave it a try. To his surprise, he felt the words starting to sink into his consciousness within a few days. Now, when he looked in the mirror, he saw not just an old man, but a wise one with a lot of life experience. It became clear to Ivan that the way other people felt about him was also changing. His neighbors started inviting him over for tea more often, and his kids and grandchildren started calling him more often. His happiness and confidence seemed to attract people like a magnet. One day, Ivan was walking when he saw a young man who looked upset. The young man told Ivan that he was having a hard time and didn't know how to deal with it. Ivan remembered Maria's advice. As Ivan told him, start with gratitude. The young man listened carefully, but his eyes showed doubt. How can gratitude help me when my life feels like a series of failures? He asked. I used to think the same thing, Ivan smiled. But start small. It could be something as simple as a warm, sunny day, a good meal, or a stranger's smile. The young man agreed and said he would try. A few days later they met again, and the young man said, I've started a gratitude journal. At first it was hard, but now I already feel better. Thank you for your advice. He also realized that his experiences and knowledge were helping others as well. Soon everyone in the village knew about him, and they came to him for advice on how to find joy again in their lives and how to deal with loneliness, fear, and exhaustion. Ivan was happy to share what he had learnt from Maria. He began by talking about the simple things he would say when he did the ritual with water, a candle, thanks, and positive affirmations. These habits may not seem important at first, but they will change your life over time. Maria suggested another rite after seeing how Ivan had changed. If we learn to open ourselves up to it, she said, the trees, grass, and water can all give us strength. She showed him how to meditate in nature by having him sit under a tree, touch the ground with his hands, and imagine the earth's energy flowing into his body and making him feel warm and calm. It became Ivan's favorite thing to do after he tried it. He spent a few minutes every morning under his favorite tree. For the next few months, he felt very calm and sure of himself. Amazing changes began to happen in the village. It seemed like people who were once quiet and stressed out were now happy and full of energy. Neighbors talked about the practices and routines they had learnt from each other. Some began with evening or gratitude rituals. Some people were moved by Ian's actions and went outside to feel the energy of the earth. But everyone found their own way that worked best for them. A reporter from a nearby city came to the village one day because he had heard that the people there were changing and wanted to tell their story. "It's not magic," Ivan said with a laugh. "It's just a wish to be aware and care for yourself and your inner world." Too often, we forget that happiness comes from within. The reporter wrote a story about the village and its amazing people who had changed their lives with simple changes. The story went viral online and got a lot of attention. Soon, Ivan started getting letters from strangers thanking him for his advice and telling him how his story had moved them to make changes in their lives. Some wrote that starting their day with gratitude had helped them get over depression. Others talked about how routines with water or meditations in nature had brought them back to life's joy. When Maria heard this, she smiled and told Ivan, "See, Ivan, your hard work is paying off. You're not only helping yourself, but also a huge number of other people." Ivan thought about this and felt like his life had a new purpose. He wasn't just living, he was inspiring others to change. A few months later, he also decided to learn more about practices that make old people happy and healthy. He asked Maria for more advice and she told him, "You've already changed so much, but there's one more thing that can amplify your energy. When you do something kind from the heart, you get a lot more back." He thought about this and remembered the young man he had inspired to keep a gratitude journal, the neighbors he had gotten to go for evening walks, and the rituals he had shared. It became clear to him that his strength was in health and helping others, so he began. People from his town got together in the evenings to talk about their problems and successes and how they had solved them. They called these meetings gathering circles of wisdom. As each meeting began with a small ritual like lighting a candle, expressing gratitude and sharing thoughts, everyone felt connected to each other. Soon, the circles of wisdom became popular not only in Ivan's village but also in nearby villages. Two people came from far away to hear Ivan's stories and learn simple but powerful practices. A man in his 40s came up to Ivan at a gathering one night. He looked tired, but there was hope in his eyes. "I've heard about you," Ivan said. "My life is at a dead end. I lost my job and feel like I can't change anything." "What should I do?" he asked. "What should I do?" Ivan asked. "Start with gratitude as I did every morning and evening. Find at least one thing you can be thankful for. And remember that helping others is a way to recharge your energy." The man nodded and promised to try. A few weeks later, he returned to the gathering. His face no longer bore the same tiredness. "I started with gratitude," he said, "and then I began helping my neighbors. At first it felt strange, but the more I gave, the more energy I felt." Ivan smiled. He knew the man was only at the beginning of his journey, but he had taken the first step toward a new, happier phase of his life. Time passed, and Ivan saw how his life and the lives of those around him continued to change. His village became a place where people came for inspiration and support. The circles of wisdom helped not just the elderly, but also the younger generation who were searching for their place in the world, but never forgot where it all began. Every evening he lit his candle, poured a glass of water, and said the same words, "All the bad leaves and the good remains." He felt how this simple ritual continued to fill him with energy and harmony. One evening, as he looked at the candle flame, Ivan thought, "If I could change my life, then anyone can." It all starts with something small, with one step. He knew his journey wasn't over. He was full of energy to continue sharing his wisdom, helping others find joy and inspiration. And now I ask you, dear listeners, what first step are you ready to take today to change your life? Think about it. Maybe it's gratitude for something simple. Maybe it's helping a loved one or starting a small ritual before bed. Remember the power to change. Your reality is always in your hands. Thanks for watching for